Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Where's My Sock? I'm your host, Mr. E, as always, and today I'm joined with my producer, Steve Murray.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Oh, I thought you were going to go a little bit lower than that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey everybody,
More than that. I mean,
how's it going?
you know, you just said to say you, so I was like, I'm not
pretty
going to
much said
introduce you like this. You've been here before, shit. It's like,
Right.
you know, you being at your friend's house. Like, hey, motherfucker, you know where to plate that shit. Get your own goddamn food,
You
shit.
got my intro covered, man. Solid. I'm your producer. This is Steve
Who said you got to come from solid? I mean, you know, it's not really an interview. It's more of a behind the scenes.
Exactly. Seams, as in SEAMS of the sock. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
All right, here I am.
So, yeah. You want to tell him, Mr. Producer, a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah. So as I said, we're going to kind of go behind the scenes. So we were going to talk about our edits, our cleanup, and how we really go through an episode working together. We go through the intro first. We discuss what's going to be the theme of the episode.
Well, hold on, Mr. Producer. Like I said, this is also part of the process, like always, folks. We're like, what episode are we reviewing? What are you talking about?
Oh,
You're
excuse me, yeah. So we're going to go over our last episode, which was some bullshit.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, a little bit.
The filler, as we said it. We don't really want to call it bullshit, but at the same time, it was some bullshit. It filled the space.
And those are things that we negotiate in like this part of the process of the editing. You know what I mean? So it's like, do we want to say bullshit? Do we want to call it filler? We don't know yet. So what are we gonna do? We're just gonna throw them both out there.
Right.
For
They're
right
not
now.
all
Why?
going to be gold, but sometimes.
Exactly.
What's the one thing that you like to say? Sometimes you just throw some shit at the wall and see
Yep.
what sticks.
You got to.
So right now, it's some
Yep.
bullshit that's sticking.
Mm-hmm.
So for right now, we're going to discuss that last episode. It's content, and that is exactly what we needed to drop. As an ongoing podcast, as you are, we've been trying to give you the ins and outs and explanations of the podcast itself and how to create one, and use the correct equipment and the tools and the applications and devices that you would be using and technology and all that kind of stuff, and all the behind the scenes stuff that you'd be talking about normally, the audio equipment and all that stuff you guys have gone over in the previous episode.
So this time we wanted to really kind of capture the editing process of the content itself. You know what I mean? Not like you said, everything's gonna be gold. You're gonna throw stuff and it's not gonna stick, but then it's okay. So what do? You just throw it out there. You don't have to publish it like I did. Like I said, this is just showing you guys the process. But you record, you review it, and then from there you see what you can do from there. You see where you can work with it. Where do you improve? Where do you insert more? Where do you do whatever it is you need to do? So
Exactly. So that goes in line with overviewing the whole episode, listening to it again and again here and there, and trying to cut it down in places, clean it up in places, editing it in a way when there might be a mistake or something that's not clear.
an example of like how last episode I was like, I like to drop weekly. That was clearly a lie. That's something I could have cut out, but I didn't.
Exactly. So that was left in the episode, and that's something that now that we're discussing it, since we're reviewing the last episode, that's something that we could have cut out to make it a little bit cleaner. It was it's just one of the things that something he could have said something in the intro along the lines of this is your next episode, and it would have been smooth and seamless, and none of you guys would have been the wiser. So that's just something that could have been cleaned up. Another example was when you were discussing Halloween late in the episode.
Yeah.
You really beat yourself up about that, but I agree. It's one of the things you could have capitalized on Halloween more.
Exactly. I could have dropped on Halloween
Exactly.
instead of the day after. So
Exactly.
again,
The day
kind of
after.
missed a few things there.
Again, beating
But
yourself up. Give yourself some grace. And you guys got to do that as well when you're making a podcast. Don't beat yourself up about something you didn't capitalize on. Just continue to remember you have to drop content. And that's the purpose of this last episode. It was dropping content to keep attention with the crowd. It was dropping that episode to keep you guys in check with us. It was saying, hey, we're still making something. We're still conversating. We're still here. Don't forget about us. Listen to the sock. But yeah, so there's other things too that, as you guys listen on, you might notice ums and uhs and gaps of silence within the episodes. Those are things that Mr. E tries to do with me before each episode to try and cut that out, to try and get less and less of that. So that way we sound more clear, more professional, and just all around better. There's more clarity, and it goes smoother and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that we do while we're think tanking when we're talking about an episode. That's part of my job as the quote unquote producer, I feel like.
He said quote unquote, I'm crying. I'm the producer, bro. But still.
I'm the producer, all right. I'm the producer. So I'm trying to produce this with Mr. B here, and that's what part of the process is. And we've been trying to trust the process. And part of that process, I'm not going to say it again, don't worry, is, filler episodes, content drops, whether that's anything and everything. Last time it was a little bit of story time. It was a little bit of motivation, and then it was a little bit of your mindset, a little bit more personal information where we got to dive a little bit deeper into what you thought about things like quiet quitting and stuff, which was interesting, honestly, I thought.
And that's trying to go back in line, like I said before, like I want to be able to teach everybody how to make a podcast, but from there too, of course, with teaching you guys, of course, I want to have one myself. So kind of want to try to transition into different kind of content and all that kind of stuff. So,
and you're already in that transition right now. So that's just the process of where we're at right now. It's filling up, doing some content drops. You've done the when, what, where, why, and now it's time to move on to bigger and better things, which is discussing popular news, pop culture, things that you guys want to discuss, popular beliefs, whatever, what have you, whatever you want to choose to do. That's where we're amping up the podcast for. That's the goal. That's the, transition. That's where we're going.
But for now, like I said, we're just showing you the process.
Exactly. So for now, it's going over the intro. It's going over the theme and idea of your current episode. And then you edit that and you get finishing touches on it to where you yourself personally listening to this, if you're doing a podcast, you want to put out a content that you accept and that you're proud of. So, along with all of this process of doing all that stuff, you're going to be creating a product that you're happy and proud of by putting in the work, by editing it and cleaning it and getting honing in on your profession as a podcaster. So that's the whole goal here.
And more specifically speaking, we're going to talk about like editing the content. We'll at a later episode talk about editing the like actual frameworks, the wavelengths, all that kind of stuff. So when you put a marker in talking about things, you can go back and actually insert a clip, all that. We'll get into that in a later episode.
So yeah, it's a lot of pre-contemplation that goes into an episode. It's a lot of contemplation, and then it's a lot of work.
There's layers to it.
There are layers, Funky.
You said there's layers, okay. Okay.
So yeah, that's the main part of behind the scenes. That's what we were discussing. That's a little peek behind the veil of what it is working on a podcast. It's not just, some people probably just slap the record button and they just throw it out there and they don't care.
Say anything and just talk and boom, here you go.
But those are the people that don't question their audio quality.
I won't go necessarily that far though, because like I said, that might be their shtick. That might be, I'm not going to question how they do things.
Right,
but,
you can have your own gimmick and stuff like that.
Right, but for this podcast, I do want to give you guys the raw, but at least some structured raw. You know what I mean?
There's a method to the madness here.
Exactly.
So,
is that it?
I don't know. You told me to do just that, like we talked about.
Well, yeah.
Because before I was ranting and going way too far everywhere, trying to just talk, and you're like, you need to really.
You came into the episode like Tom Holland's like everything about the future. I'm like, bro, shut up, like.
Just excited to be on the mic.
So yeah, for now, like I said, folks, that's just the process. Like I said, so you guys got the rough draft, and then now cleaning up the episode. Going back, talking about the filler episode, I can quick wrap that up. But of course, for podcast episode purposes, I had to make the content long, just like this point that I'm trying to get to right now. Why did I stretch that so long? Why? To build minutes on this episode. There you go. There you go. So the point of, like I said last episode, is content. You want to point that out. You want to have that out. You want to put that out. And sometimes they're going to have filler episodes. Just make sure your filler episodes are somewhat in line with what you talk about all the time and not just something completely random, unless there is a special occasion. Maybe you're introducing another podcast just to give them some, like a shout out, like, hey, just so you guys know, I don't have anything for you this week, but I think you really might like this podcast, so here, check this out. But usually it's still at least in the same realm of what you talk about, and it's, same audience, all that jazz. So like I said, the completely randoms, there's that one special time and occasion, I think. You think of something else as a special occasion for you to just be completely random, let me know. Follow me on the sock page on Facebook. Even where's my _sock on Twitter. All the places. You know where to come at me at. Email me, sjendeavors@gmail.com. All of that. Yeah. So, and remember, endeavors with a Z, not an S. And
like, follow, subscribe, anything and everything, guys.
There you go. And as always, folks, this is another episode of Where's My Sock? As always, I've been Mr. E, and thank you, Mr. Murray, for joining us today.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thanks.